Je me lève à quelle heure? Moins 20.
What time do I get up? Around 20 to 5, depending on whether Rose is here. Maybe 4:30. I may then do the washing up, or perhaps the ironing. I do get up early. I don't mind being up at 4:30, but it's different at night. I go to bed early. There's nothing much to do in the evenings.
Le soir, il n'y a rien à faire.
In 2001, the British shipping company Cunard placed an order with the French shipyard Chantier de l'Atlantique for a huge new transatlantic liner, a liner that would be larger, faster, and more luxurious than all its rivals. She would be called Queen Mary II.
On the day I signed my contract, I thought, I'm going to work on the Queen. I must say I had thought a lot about it. When they asked me why I wanted the job, I said it was because I wanted to leave my mark. I may be a bit of a nobody among all the other workers, but it's a job that will make quite an impression on me.
Every Thursday morning, massive sheets of steel arrived in seemingly endless convoys at the shipyard in Saint-Nazaire. The chantier seemed to be swallowing them by the truckload. 40 trains, each pulling 20 flatbed trucks, 12,000 sheets of steel. Remarkably, it took barely 18 months, from the summer of 2002 to the winter of 2003, to turn those sheets of steel into an ocean-going giant, the like of which the world had never seen. It was 40 years since a transatlantic liner was built by the Chantier in Saint-Nazaire, the France in 1963. Before that, the Normandy in 1935, one of the most famous liners. These were almost mythical vessels with a special place in the hearts and minds of those who originally worked on them. The question was, could the yard improve on those earlier builds? Could it even match them? For there was no one left with the experience of building a true transatlantic liner. Despite that, the architects and engineers dusted off the old rulebook, mixed this with the most modern build techniques and procedures, and turned the incredible jigsaw of some 300,000 separate parts into a completed liner.
I don't think people can imagine what this job is like. I really don't. When I tell people I'm a welder, that it can be pretty hard work at times, they don't really understand. My parents say that I look much happier since I stopped being a cook and moved to the yard. But they don't realise what our working conditions are like. You can see these small gaps we have to squeeze through. Well, I know I'm small and that I find it easy to get inside. But sometimes when my muscles ache a bit, I think, damn, I'm not really made for this.
Panels, frames, beams, reinforcing sections. Soon the shape of a liner can be seen in the shipyard's fabrication shops, where 200 welders, of which Celine is just one, are working together. With her massive hull made of 30-gauge steel, Queen Mary II will be well equipped to meet the challenges thrown at her by the capricious North Atlantic.
Her lines won't be the same as other ships built today. She's in a class of her own, got something special. Because her bow will be so beautiful, it would be nicer to the eye. Everyone in the fabrication shops are really proud about working on Queen Mary 2, even those who've seen it all before and are just about to retire. There are a number of people for whom this will be the last job, and they're really happy it's this job.
So how is a modern liner built? The principal raw materials are those massive steel sheets. The way they are used is a bit like a child's game. The steel is cut and welded to form blocks. First one, then another, then another. These are then assembled together, almost like Lego. Cables as thick as your arm, links, shackles, hooks and brackets. These are the tools of the crane operators, known incongruously in the yard as eaters of scrap. It's for these operators to collect the blocks of the liner one by one and place them exactly in position in the construction dock where the liner is being built. So how is the liner to be built? In much the same way as others, but there's a great deal more of her.
169 tons in B1, 171 in B2, 171 tons in B2. Here's the next shift.
The night shift had done half the work on this block. Dédé's team will finish it in the morning.
How's it going? Morning.
Well, it's gone well, hasn't it, Laurent?
Yes, very well, very well.
2 shifts of 8 hours create a 600-ton block, which in reality represents several thousand hours of work and many hundreds of thousands of euros.
Keep going, just a little more. 97, that's good.
Many of these blocks are as tall and heavy as a house. All are crucial pieces of an intricate jigsaw, each waiting their turn to be assembled to create the new Queen Mary 2. As for Dédé, it's almost the end of the road. He's fast approaching retirement. Queen Mary 2 will be his final build.
I came over here to stay for a month. That was 29 years ago. I liked this place immediately. Being outside, in the open air, being able to work almost unsupervised. That's pretty hard to find. But I'm finding it harder now. Rigging can be really tough. There can be tons to lift, huge links. When I was younger, I could cope with the work easily. But by the time I got to 55, I was getting pretty tired at the end of a night. Clambering up and down the crane, my legs have begun to hurt in the mornings. Here we are. Those are the last ones. We calculated the total weight I've lifted over the years. I must have worked on some 61 ships in 29 years, so I would have lifted around 1 million tons of steel with the crane and some 2,720 tons of steel links by myself.
October, November, December, January, February. The halfway stage is reached in the build. The Queen, missing both her bow and stern, is floated down the giant building dock to a position where it will be easier to complete her hull and superstructure. The crane operators work on through the bitter winter weather, day and night, 3 separate teams ensuring that the giant gantry never stops, unless the wind whipping off the Loire estuary is stronger than 70 kilometers an hour.
Slow down there, slow down.
Apart from the weather, the other threat to the liner's well-being is salt, corrosive, destructive, and within hours, attacking the steel hull and superstructure as the liner takes shape in the building dock. The need for speed in completing the fabrication and assembly of Queen Mary II is paramount, so that painters can get to work applying their protective coats.
This is called a comb, or at least in our language it's called a comb. Its teeth are graduated so that we can tell how many more coats have to be applied. We measure every painted area this way. It's a technique we've used for more than 30 years, so we're used to it. You have to make sure you draw the comb vertically across the painted areas to get an accurate result.
In painting the liner, it's essential that a good finish is achieved by all the painters, like Michel, who are working on the hull. This will have a major impact on the ease and speed with which she slips through the water. With such a large surface area below the waterline, the quality of the paint finish can gain or lose as much as half a knot on top speed. But one difficulty is that the painters claim they can't paint when it rains, nor because of dew when it's too early in the morning or too late at night. And yet 550,000 square meters of the hull have to be painted with 400 tons of paint applied in 7 separate coats. And Tanya is the person in charge.
And I tell you then. Yeah, okay, I will look that. Bonjour, Guillaume.
Morning, Guillaume. When are you going to close the stabilizers?
Soon.
You know I've had them cleaned up and they're already dirty.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sure.
Tanya spends much of her time in a sort of netherworld at the bottom of the dock, grappling with those who make it difficult for the painters to do a proper job, and those who make a mess of the work already completed.
What are they going to do there?
They're checking the stopcocks.
Oh, right. I thought they were going to set fire to something.
No, they're checking to see if they're closed.
Good idea.
Her method: to prowl the dock floor like a caged lioness.
Tripping. Yeah? Did you tell the guy in charge of the numbers? Or do you want me to do it?
You do. Okay.
Okay, nice to see you. If it's for another bad news next time, just don't think about me.
We're just getting into 116. These are the kitchen and laundry tanks, which are closed. They're okay.
Were you here yesterday?
Uh-huh.
How did you get on with the lift?
We locked it.
You must not paint under a lift when it's not locked off.
We locked it.
No, it wasn't locked.
It was. Jean-Pierre was there.
He was just watching.
What?
To lock a lift means you must padlock it. You're irresponsible.
Yeah, all right.
You can never tell them. I can't believe it. When you want to go somewhere, you think, well, why not go that way? I'll just take a look at this or that and move on. I'll then come back half an hour later to see how things are going, which tends to annoy them. But you've got to be a little cunning, not shy.
While Tanya looks after the painters working on the outside of the liner, Arnaud looks after those working on the inside, or rather, in the depths even below the engine room deck, which can only be reached through cramped manholes.
There are so many tanks on this liner. Dry tanks represent perhaps 30 to 40% of the hull. The rest are ballast tanks, healing tanks, fuel tanks, drinking water tanks, balancing reservoirs, water for the galleys and laundries. It's an almost endless list.
Corrosion is always a concern in these areas, at best polluting water stores, at worst creating more serious damage. So before painting, this entire underworld is shot blasted to ensure a perfect base for painting and then repainting. At the very bottom of the liner lie the massive storage tanks for fresh water, wastewater, and fuels. It's a honeycomb structure comprising a labyrinth of tunnels, recesses, and niches.
She's so massive, almost titanic. She's much larger than any liner that's been built. She's 41.5, almost 42 metres wide. And as for her length, everything is just so much bigger than we've ever seen before.
Isn't it right?
We need 150.
You lose track of time in here. You don't really know when you come in or go out. Time just flies by. You lose your sense of reality when you're inside the tanks. When you're painting the tanks, it might as well be night time. There's no daylight. You always have to work with lamps, artificial light. We're pretty happy to get back to the workshops and see a bit of sunshine. Those painters, they should really be called the painters of the night.
We do paint in good quality. We have told the people of the windows that they have to clean before putting them.
I think everyone here dreamed of building a liner like the Queen. She certainly attracts attention. Even those who have nothing to do with her, who are building other ships, just stand and stare at her. It means it's even more important you don't make a mistake, of course.
Elsewhere in the giant liner, the business of fitting out proceeds apace. A multitude of key distribution systems are installed for fresh water and wastewater, for cold air and hot air, for gas, for electricity, for key electronic control and monitoring systems. These are routed between the bridge, the engine room, and other operational areas such as the desalination plant, the water purification plant, between cabins, theaters and sports halls, kitchens and restaurants, bars and other recreational areas. These are in effect the arteries that help to empower this massive liner. All have to be invisible, inaudible, and if possible, infallible.
Le casse-tête,
The ship's architect wanted to create as much living space as possible. As a result, the space allotted for all these services is absolutely minimal. Of course, we're still expected to work in these small spaces. As an example, at this point on the plan, I've got just 600 millimeters to work with. All these services have to be fitted into just 600 millimeters.
Literally thousands of people handle this essential work. On the air conditioning system alone, 230 Indians, 80 Romanians, 70 Poles, 60 Italians, and 30 Hungarians. This group are handling 60 kilometers of ventilation shafts and 800 tons of equipment. 500,000 hours of work has to be completed to install and commission the system. In value, almost 10% of the price of the liner.
In India TV channel, we will see with our family that Queen Mary is passing from any country. That we can tell. We have brought here in Queen Mary too. This is a big one of the big ships
in the world,
biggest world ship.
I can proudly speak to my children. Look at son, this is Queen Mary. I will do work in this Queen Mary 1 year. Our life.
All in all, I've been working on this liner for about 2.5 years. I spent 8 months just sorting out the big picture before I could deal with all the little details.
What a small group of engineers, like Gilles, has designed on their computers, an army of workers now has to create on board the liner. But the gap between the planned and actual time taken widens all the time.
सीढ़ी दो है लेकिन वो यहाँ पे है ना एक सीढ़ी एक ही है वो इधर काम करेगा दो सीढ़ी उधर है
In building, easy work. In ship, different. Because of the design of all gather. See, here is no space. How they're pulling the line, electricals, ducting, insulations. And when you do the work on the building, so you can install easily because that's clear, and not like this.
A lot of work. There's no space to maneuver the boxes because they're big. But we manage.
You've got to like the job. If you do, then once it's all done, you get a lot of satisfaction. The networks of services are relatively straight, very few corners. The installation was pretty well on time. But then we ran into trouble with manufacturers and subcontractors, which has mucked up the schedules.
The leader sets the rhythm for the team.
The electrical connections are few and far between because Cunard wanted minimal connections and no sleeving or junction boxes. This is because safety on board is an obsession. The fear of fire, perhaps caused by a short circuit in the middle of the North Atlantic, means that all electrical harnesses are some 300 meters long without a break. It means Eric and his team have to pull unbroken wires the length of the liner.
That's 89 kilometers in total. Nothing but big sections. We had 1,000 kilometers to pull through in all. When you add up the big and small sections, that's a lot. Okay, let's pull this lot.
"14 months exactly. That's the time it's taken us, so far, since the first steel was cut for Queen Mary II, the most expensive and most beautiful liner in maritime history."
The shipwrights of ancient Greece and Rome used to place coins under the masts of their ships to preserve them from rodents and bad luck. The tradition persists, but today they are welded into place. It's safer. This ceremony is also a chance for Cunard to see how their investment is being spent, and for the liner's architect, Stephen Payne, to check out how well the yard have interpreted his design.
I never considered doing a cruise ship. For me, it was always a liner, and the very first line that I drew on the piece of paper representing the length of the ship, that line, even though it was a straight line, in my mind, meant that's the line of a liner, such as a transatlantic liner, sailing across the Atlantic. If something goes wrong or there's bad weather halfway across, she cannot run and escape. She has to face that weather. And to do that, she needs the strength, she needs the power, and she also needs the hull shape of a liner, and that this is a tremendous difference to a cruise ship, and it increases the cost of the ship by nearly 40%.
So that makes 782. I'll go around the other side.
Tomorrow is a very, very big day, and despite the time, 4 o'clock in the morning, I and many of my colleagues will be up watching the ship leave this building dock. It's like leaving the womb and going round to the outfitting quay.
The port pilot, Jean, will be on board the liner to coordinate the work of the tugs during the transfer. Hélène, a naval officer attached to the shipyard, will have overall responsibility for the move from one dock to the other. As her draft is almost 10 meters, the transfer must be done at the peak of high tide. Even then, there could be only a meter or less between the liner's keel and the bottom of the River Loire. At high tide, there's also a strong current. From the moment it leaves its building dock, the liner will be struggling against these currents, while the tugs fight to hold her in position.
Gilles, how many? How many centimeters, Gilles?
Hélène, we have a problem at the bow.
What's the problem, Didier?
A massive oil leak at the bow.
Oh, hell.
Helene and her teams plan to float the liner into the Loire quite gently and in a straight line, with the help of 2 trolleys sliding along the quayside. 2 trolleys to which the 50,000-ton hull and superstructure must first be attached.
Are you kidding me?
I think there's a small problem. There's no front brace attached. I'll call you.
I want you to sort this quickly. It could be serious.
Is everything okay down there, Arnaud?
Listen, the stern is almost level with us, but we have this big problem at the bow and a lack of manoeuvring space. I'd like Martellier to get his arse down here because the water level's rising and the hawsers are about to break.
C'est bon ou quoi? Tu veux que j'en remette un petit coup?
This is going to be our last attempt. You've just got a few minutes to try again. If it doesn't work, we'll go without the front brace.
You're going to move the ship?
So Belle-Île will be on the port bow.
Hello, Belle-Île on the port bow.
Pornichet on the starboard bow.
Second position on the Loire side.
Second Loire side.
The problem is to get her to move her first few centimetres.
Helene? Is everything all right?
Ça coule un peu, mais ça glisse sans problème, il est parti.
Feel how she glides, see how she flies, queen of the ocean.
Billon, tiens bon. Tiens bon, Billon. Willick, tiens bon.
C'est bon, Willick.
Michel, tiens bon. On va l'accoster parce qu'il fait le yo-yo, là. On va l'accoster.
Unusually, Queen Mary 2 will be propelled by 4 pods, effectively 4 large electric motors, each weighing well over 300 tons, or as much as a fully laden jumbo jet, that are hung under the stern. Even more unusual, their propellers will pull rather than push the liner through the water at speeds of up to 30 knots.
We're setting it up to 6 or 7.
We're setting the frequency that corresponds to the pod's maximum rotation speed. This will generate the maximum frequency for the ship.
Sebastian and his team play a crucial role in relation to the pods. Their equipment measures the noise and vibration that can be heard and felt from the pods through every square meter of the liner. Should these be too high when Queen Mary 2 is delivered to Cunard, the yard will either have to make adjustments to bring these levels within the limits demanded in the contract, or pay substantial financial penalties.
600 micrometers a second.
On the Queen, silence is golden.
Mm, 96. That's interesting. Yeah, good.
The thing passengers want on board a modern liner is the level of comfort they get ashore. They're not interested in old-style accommodation, and they don't want to be sick. All they want is five-star hotel comfort, so our aim is to give them what they get ashore.
How do you do that? When you take off the frame, there's no problem. But what if you lift the runner with the pod fixed in it? How would you fix the pod? That would be tricky.
There is an informal ceremony in the yard, a meeting which has a message for everyone, because this is the day when Queen Mary 2 is given her motive power. Up to this point, she has been little more than an enormous barge. Inside the liner, there is an electrical generating plant capable of producing enough electricity to power a town of some 200,000 people. 80% of this power goes to the pods. Pods which were due to be fitted some months ago, but which are now very much behind schedule. In simple terms, 4 rather large outboard motors that merely have to be suspended from the ship's hull. But the technology is tricky, and to some extent the yard's engineers are gambling with the owners. If all goes well, the design will mean not only less noise and vibration, but with the lack of any propeller shafts, more onboard space and the ability to fit more cabins that can be sold. If all goes well.
I've come the wrong way. We used a lot of tricks from the medieval times of the cathedrals. The architects and the builders of those, they learnt a lot of things, and we can benefit from those. The idea of a small entrance. So you go in through a small entrance, maybe a big imposing door, but the ceilings were always low. And then when you walked into the main nave of the cathedral, the thing exploded in front of you. And we've tried to recreate that. Yeah, because the idea here was to create a big central corridor down the ship that the passengers can walk down, so that when they look into the public rooms, they get a vision of the sea. And I'm just amazed by the width of this. And you have to imagine it with big artwork panels going down it as well. It's going to be amazing. It really is.
Not many interior designers are asked to imagine a town built on 13 decks of a liner. But this is what Andrew Collier has had to do. Supervising the creation of 8 restaurants, 14 bars, a theater and planetarium, a ballroom, discotheques, a casino, library, smoking room, a hydrotherapy room, a winter garden, and much more. And all with phlegmatic good humor.
Perfect. Fine.
Yeah. The gypsum is matte.
Yeah.
Can you prefer matte or satin for this ceiling?
This is satin. Matte.
Matte,
yeah.
And satin, but it's possible to put all satin or matte.
All matte, I think.
You prefer matte?
Yeah. Which is quite nice because it helps. It's the winter garden, and it's a room recreated from the old ships, where when you were in inclement weather, bad weather on a crossing, you had a room that you could go in and feel was summery and warm and bright. So it's all light colours. We have a water feature going here. The artworks are coming on. I've seen the panels that go behind the seats of the English country landscape to help that idea with garden. The idea was to create a room that maybe is an extension of an English country house.
Underneath all of what Andrew sets out to achieve is the desire to let passengers aboard the new liner experience a little piece of England as Queen Mary II helps them discover the world.
Travel for most people these days is a means to an end. You travel, if you're going on holiday, you get to the airport, you travel on the plane and you arrive. The Queen Mary should really be about making people rethink that idea of the travel is the experience. I really hope so, if we bring back the romance of cruising.
Cabins for the crew, cabins for the passengers. Some inside and without windows, others outside and with windows. There are also balcony and luxury cabins. The standard cabins, which take up some 50% of the volume of the liner, arrive at the yard all through the summer. Some 90% of them are prefabricated and delivered direct from the production line as complete units. The day will soon come when Cunard will tell its sales teams which cabins they can sell and to whom.
There's no way of switching these without using this? No. Is that right?
No, so you have just this one. I will check, but I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but we better check, no? Because I think that normally you can turn these off from here.
A switch doesn't conform to the cabin model. There are 1,500 of these that will have to be reordered, reconnected, rechecked, and re-presented to Cunard. It's a game of cat and mouse, but David Barter is an old hand at this game.
I can't be right.
This one and also this one. But these are temporary, these will only be replaced when the modification.
If we do them in the morning, or if it goes a bit later, we can run into the afternoon, then that's okay. But to work from 9 until 5, by the time you get to 5, sometimes you may miss something. And if you miss something, it's a bit late. There's another scratch up there, I just see too. I think it's 2017, the total altogether, twice. So it's 4,034, I think, inspections. So it works out, I think, about 50 cabins every day from now until delivery day. So that's why we're doing, I think this morning we're doing 53 or 4. So if they maintain that, it'll be okay. But sometimes towards the end it gets more difficult, and the bigger the suites, it takes longer to inspect. So.
La suite de tribord.
The starboard suite that will be named after Queen Elizabeth is about 85 square metres. It opens onto a balcony and into a panoramic lift that gives direct access to the suite. It's situated on the 10th deck, which is where we are. There's a small corridor giving access to the entrance to the suite. You walk into the lounge, which is quite large. It also has a dining area. There's also a sitting room with armchairs, table, and a sofa.
The royal suite dominates the forward end of the liner. It will give an unrestricted view on arrival in New York, rather like a moving terrace suspended above the ocean. The price is high, some 45,000 euros for a week's voyage.
Here you move into a small corridor which leads onto the balcony.
It's up to Bernard to deliver the promise of such luxury. And to do this, he has to arrange for 10 different trades to work together in harmony. Ashore, it's rare to find more than 3 working together.
On vient par ici, on a une autre salle de bain par ici aussi. Ici. Et on a le fameux accès pour le sanctuaire panoramique qui peut distribuer directement.
In here is another bathroom, and here's the access to the panoramic lift, which also leads directly to the public areas. I can easily imagine the sight of the bow of the ship, a little swell, sunny day like today. Staying in these rooms will be really something. Just wait until it's all finished. Plasma screens, videos, DVDs, everything. In fact, everything an ordinary bloke can't have. Don't give me that. Finalise the estimate and send it to me as soon as possible, so that we can finish welding in here. And then you can go. I got in touch with the person in charge of the insulation. He's hiding behind this story about materials not being delivered. I don't want anything to do with that. All they have to do is provide us with what we need.
60 days before the start of the first sea trials. Being late is not the worst thing that can happen. What would be worse is to try and make up for lost time at any price.
Bonjour Christophe, c'est Tania.
Hi Christophe, it's Tanya. I think we better meet up today. Everything seems to be going wrong. You guys are screwing up badly, so please call me back. It's taken such a long time here, it's not even good quality.
Never had any problems on other ships?
No, just with dimensions and the surfaces. Look at that! And... no, I can't. You can't not do the preparation of a swimming pool. You know I'm about to tell you to scour it all and start again. This is pathetic.
Don't cut anything out unless the plasterer says so. We've already had that problem in 502.
David is going to write where the problems are and what they are. Whether it has to do with the plasterboard, the bathroom plumbing, or with the cabling.
Yeah, it's an encyclopedia, not just a notebook, mate. Right, well, I'm delivering it now, OK? You just have to deal with it, put it somewhere, store it. You've got the personnel, and today's the date that I've made my way here to deliver it, all right?
The plasterers are running late.
What, you only just realised that? We've been complaining about this since week 23.
So you're going to deliver anyway?
Yeah, I've got the guys to do it today, but not tomorrow, as was planned. Next time I can do it is in 3 weeks' time.
Yes, but if there's no one around for this period, then 3 weeks will be lost.
No, one of my guys can make it, but the rest are on holiday. That was always planned because this was supposed to be finished by July 31st. We had Moroccans working here, but they couldn't get another permit, so they've gone home. Finding someone is easier said than done at the start of a holiday.
This isn't the start.
Yes, holiday starts tomorrow.
So much for that. I've told Vincent this is our most critical day so far.
With the liner due to leave for its first sea trials on September 27th, some 2 weeks later than planned, the painters and decorators are still hard at work. But that's just too bad. The liner must go to sea, because those responsible for its seaworthiness can wait no longer.
bâbord, Billy, le bâbord. Et l'avant, l'arrière, vous larguez tout. Vous larguez tout.
100 engineers and technicians are impatiently waiting to see how this new giant of the seas will perform. Once clear of the Loire estuary and between Île-Dieu and Belle-Île, the race is on to see whether the new liner will meet its targets in terms of speed, endurance, general seaworthiness, its noise and vibration, and many more critical elements of the contract, for which failure could cost millions of euros. Up on the bridge, the engineers, all experts in their fields, prepare to put the new liner through its paces. A straight run, a zigzag course, the tightest possible circle the liner can make, its stability and the effect of the 4 massive stabilizers, a short course running flat out to see what speed she can reach. 3 short days and nights during which the testing of every possible aspect of the liner continues relentlessly without a break, after which it's back to the yard in Saint-Nazaire for finishing touches and adjustments. 4 more weeks in the yard, and then the liner faces yet more demanding sea trials. If she passes all these tests, she will be ready for her grand cleanup and for final delivery to her new owners, Cunard. Although she will be English for the rest of her 40-year life, the new Queen Mary II was born in Saint-Nazaire and will be carried in the hearts and minds of those who built her for as long as they live.
She is real. She is down. Lucida, she is real.